Spencer, Indiana, a small town where life moved at a slower pace. Neighbors knew neighbors, children played freely, but beneath the surface of this idyllic town, a darkness lurked. This is the story of Summer Inman, a young mother trapped in a web of manipulation and abuse, her life tragically cut short. Summer's life was carefully controlled by John. He dictated her every move, isolating her from her family and friends. Her once vibrant spirit slowly dimmed under the weight of his constant scrutiny and manipulation. He monitored her phone calls, limited her access to money, and used their religious beliefs to justify his actions. Despite the suffocating control, Summer never stopped fighting for her freedom. She confided in her family, whispering her fears and desperation during stolen moments. They urged her to leave John, offering her a safe haven from his abuse. Summer knew she had to escape, but the thought of leaving her daughter behind was unbearable. John, aware of Summer's quiet defiance, tightened his grip. He threatened her, using their daughter as leverage to keep her trapped. Desperate, Summer made a plan to meet her family at a local grocery store parking lot, a seemingly mundane location that wouldn't arouse John's suspicion. The church, meant to be a sanctuary, became a cage for Summer. John, a charismatic figure within their congregation, used his position to manipulate those around him. He painted himself as a devout man, a righteous husband and father. Behind this facade, he was a master manipulator, twisting scripture to serve his own twisted agenda. Church members, blinded by John's charisma and their own unwavering faith, failed to see the truth. They accepted his version of events, dismissing Summer's pleas for help as the ramblings of a troubled wife. The church elders, instead of offering support and guidance, turned a blind eye to the escalating abuse. Their silence, their inaction, made them complicit in John's reign of terror. The church, meant to be a beacon of hope and love, became a breeding ground for fear and control. John's paranoia intensified. Consumed by unfounded suspicions, he became convinced that Summer was plotting against him. He saw enemies everywhere, lurking in the shadows, whispering in his ear. His grip on reality slipped further, dragging Summer deeper into his abyss of madness. The abuse escalated, transitioning from emotional and psychological torture to physical violence. Bruises blossomed on Summer's skin, a testament to his rage. Fear choked her voice, silencing her pleas for mercy. On July 4th, 2008, Summer's worst nightmare became a reality. Under the guise of a family outing, John lured Summer and their daughter to a remote location and brutally ended her life. He then abducted their daughter, leading authorities on a nationwide manhunt. Section 5. Justice and its Aftermath. The Conviction of a Killer. The manhunt for John Inman and his daughter captivated the nation. News crews descended upon the small town of Spencer, eager to uncover the details of this horrific crime. Summer's family, their hearts shattered, clung to the hope that her daughter would be found safe. Days later, John was apprehended in a Missouri motel room. His daughter, miraculously unharmed, was found with him. The nation breathed a collective sigh of relief, their joy tempered by the grief that hung heavy in the air. Summer was gone, her life tragically cut short, but her daughter was safe. John Inman's trial was a media spectacle. Prosecutors presented a mountain of evidence, painting a chilling portrait of a manipulative and abusive husband driven to murder. The jury reached a verdict, guilty. John Inman was convicted of murder and sentenced to 80 years in prison. Section 6. Scars of Betrayal. The Inman family's unending grief. The Inman family, devastated by Summer's murder, struggled to come to terms with their loss. Their grief was compounded by the betrayal they felt. The church, meant to be a source of comfort and support, had failed them in their darkest hour. They grappled with unanswered questions, their pain amplified by the knowledge that Summer had reached out for help, only to be ignored. The guilt they carried, the what-ifs, and if-onlys haunted their waking hours. Summer's daughter, now an orphan, became a poignant symbol of both tragedy and hope. Her grandparents, thrust into the role of primary caregivers, faced the daunting task of raising her with love and stability. The Inman family, their lives irrevocably shattered, began the long and arduous journey of healing. They sought solace in their faith, clinging to the belief that Summer was in a better place, free from pain and suffering. Section 7. Finding Strength in Tragedy. Summer's Legacy of Courage. Summer's story, though born out of tragedy, became a powerful catalyst for change. Her death sparked a conversation about domestic violence, shining a light on the silent suffering of countless men and women trapped in abusive relationships. Her name became synonymous with courage, a reminder that even in the face of fear, there is always hope. Advocates for domestic violence survivors seized upon Summer's story, using it to raise awareness and demand accountability. They called for stricter laws, increased funding for shelters and support services, and mandatory training for law enforcement and religious leaders. Churches across the nation, forced to confront their own complicity in cases like Summer's, implemented new protocols for addressing domestic violence. They established support groups, provided counseling services, and educated their congregations about the warning signs of abuse. Summer's legacy extended far beyond the borders of her small town. Her story resonated with people from all walks of life, reminding them that domestic violence can affect anyone, regardless of age, race, religion, or socioeconomic status. Section 8. A broader lens examining domestic abuse in our society. Summer Inman's story, while tragic, is not an isolated incident. It is a stark reminder of the pervasive nature of domestic violence, a global epidemic that affects millions of people every year. Domestic violence takes many forms, from physical and sexual abuse to emotional and psychological manipulation. It thrives in silence, fueled by power and control. Abusers often isolate their victims, cutting them off from friends and family, making them financially dependent, and using fear and intimidation to maintain their grip. The statistics are staggering. According to the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, 1 in 4 women and 1 in 9 men experience severe intimate partner physical violence in their lifetime. The impact of domestic violence extends far beyond the immediate victims, affecting children, families, and communities as a whole. Section 9. Recognizing the red flags, early intervention and support. Recognizing the warning signs of domestic violence is crucial for early intervention and prevention. Abusers often exhibit controlling behaviors, such as isolating their partners from loved ones, monitoring their communication, limiting their access to finances, and belittling their accomplishments. Physical abuse may not always be present in the early stages of an abusive relationship, but emotional and psychological abuse can be just as damaging. This can include constant criticism, humiliation, gaslighting, and threats of violence. Victims often experience feelings of worthlessness, self-doubt, and fear. If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence, it is essential to seek help. There are numerous resources available, including hotlines, shelters, support groups, and legal aid organizations. Breaking free from an abusive relationship can be a daunting and dangerous process. Section 10. Hope Endures, Honoring Summer's Memory. Summer Inman's story is a tragic reminder of the devastating impact of domestic violence. Her life, cut short by a system that failed to protect her, serves as a call to action for us all. We must remain vigilant in our efforts to raise awareness, advocate for change, and support survivors. Let us honor Summer's memory by breaking the silence surrounding domestic violence. Let us educate ourselves and others about the warning signs, the resources available, and the importance of believing and supporting survivors. Let us create a society where love, respect, and equality prevail, and where violence has no place. Summer's spirit lives on in the countless lives she touched and the legacy of change she inspired. Her story, though rooted in tragedy, carries a message of hope and resilience. By working together, we can create a world where no one has to endure the pain and suffering that she endured.